July 25th, 4 p.m. Ottawa City Commission study session. We'll start with public comments. Do we have any?
We do. We have 2 registered today.
Okay.
We have Levi Cox and Kitty Schiffer.
Who'd like to come up first?
Both here for pretty much the same reason.
Yeah, come on up, both of you then. Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon. So we just wanted to stop in, let everybody know that our upgrade that I know you guys are probably all fairly aware of is completed. And we're mostly hands off. There's a punch list that we're going through with contractors just to make sure that we're compliant with everything across the board. But mostly just that all of our new gears in play. We're launching our new monitoring system for the power supplies that'll tell us when commercial power is off. It'll help us to be quicker to respond to outages if there are some, specifically power related ones. It'll tell us right away commercial power is off, so we kind of know how quick to roll if it's on us or power. And then I know Levi had mentioned before that we also are moving very soon to the 3rd redundant for supplying the fiber to the area, which is kind of unheard of. Ottawa's going to be different than a lot of even our systems. So we'll be tri-redundant as far as a fiber circuit here, which means it can always be something to take us out completely, but the likelihood is next to nil. But that's really about it. Just to kind of let everybody know that update, all you guys that, we're done with that finally. There was a lot of growing pains, they like to call them, but there was a lot of those. We come across just a lot of obstacles that we didn't foresee. And so it really set us down. So now our goal now is just to win back everybody's trust in our stability, which is ultimately what we're shooting for. So.
Commissioners, any questions?
I'll just say we switched out the bank out on 68th Highway about a month ago, and everything's going just fine. So
great.
Everything done.
Yeah,
Good.
great.
Well.
We want to hear more of that.
Yeah,
That's ultimately what we want to be here for, right? Nobody wants to
Right.
come and get beat up, but
Yeah.
it's been a lot. This was a very large undertaking, and there was just so many moving parts. We had a little bit, as everybody knows, shipping and delivery became a thing halfway through, and so we had to physically drive and get stuff, and it just turned into a mess. But anyway, moral of the story is we're hands off of that. We'll continue to strive to be 100% up, which is what we want to be. So,
Do you know, I've had questions kind of asked towards me.
sure.
Because I've had people have to call in to kind of request a refund, a credit, anything for
Sure.
days that they were down, anything like that. I know you guys are probably not on that side, but probably same process, just still call in.
It is,
There's any that I can
absolutely.
circle back
Yeah, and then we've been really good, I know, on that side as far as because of the pain, crediting people back in the bill. We want to give them, what they're paying for and not pay for something they didn't get. So they'll continue to do that for a little bit. We're hoping that just quiets down and we don't get those calls at all anymore, but yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And then you can always swing by, anybody can swing by the office here since we have a local office and get direct answers or support that way too. I know the call centers, as they all are a little bit as people work from home, that becomes a little more of a longer hold time. And so we're working on that. I know the company's put forth a huge effort in Q4 as far as our call center and being responsive to folks on the phone, because that's, the biggest way for them to communicate with us.
I know I've directed people, I've had the best luck on Twitter.
Yeah.
Rather than just getting in, shitting
Social
in.
media, weirdly enough, like everywhere else, has become a huge way for them to contact us, and we've kind of followed suit there as well. So
Awesome.
Well, good, gentlemen. Thank you for stopping in. We appreciate the update and glad to hear that that's all complete. And
Us too.
hopefully things go well for you guys.
us too.
I'm sure.
It's going to be good. So
Good.
we appreciate your
Good.
patience with us as well. So.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. All right, that moves us on to items to be placed on the regular city commission agenda, which is our minutes from the July 18th study session. Commissioners, were you able to look it over, and if so, or you able to move that on to our August 3rd meeting? Sound good? All right, so what we'll do then. Moves us on to items for presentation and discussion. First one is a review of our June monthly reports. We'll start with Commissioner Graves.
I actually had no questions or comments this month.
All right, Commissioner Kaler.
I do not have any at this time. I think that none at this time.
Commissioner Clayton.
I have one for, just kind of general anecdotal one for police. And just kind of in terms of our we're within the 5-year trending average, but obviously 2022 has been higher. And if there's anything, I think,
What page?
related.
30.
30.
Yeah, I'll come up here so you can hear me. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Clayton, for the question about Part 1 crime going up. So in Ottawa, thankfully, we don't have a lot of violent crime. So when our crime rates do increase, it is generally attributed to thefts and burglaries. And that's what we're seeing. So 2021 was, as far as the records that I have available to me to go back and look at, the lowest that crime has ever been in Ottawa. So at some point, you got to hit the bottom and then you start to go up. And I think I sat before you last year, kind of when we talked about that, like, you can only expect crime to continue to go down so much before it does go up, and that's what we've seen. Part of that increase specifically related to thefts is shoplifting. And there is a active loss prevention program at Walmart again, which there had not been for quite some time. And I'd say close to half of the increase of thefts is directly attributed to shoplifting cases. And that's where we are with shoplifting. That goes up. That's a reactive response that officers go out. And certainly the fact that we, again, have unlocked motor vehicles being the primary target for people that break into. The burglaries, that is more either a residential burglary or a commercial, which we really don't have many commercial burglaries. But again, people who leave, for instance, a shed or an outbuilding or a garage unlocked, that people are able to access and remove property from. That's really what the big result in that is, but still, it does contribute to the overall spikes. Now, if you do note, our auto thefts, while thefts are up, we've had a continued year-over-year increase of auto thefts until this year. And again, those are way down compared to what they have in the last few years. So hopefully our messaging about please don't leave your keys near your car, don't leave your car unlocked, don't leave your weapons unattended in your vehicles continues to push through, and we'll continue to push that out again.
Awesome.
Just a question on theft, is there a dollar amount threshold where that qualifies as theft, or is it just anything?
That is correct. There is no threshold to determine a theft. The only deciding factor is if it's above a certain amount, it becomes a felony instead of just a misdemeanor.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, okay.
I think, other than congratulations on the last place trophy, that's, I think, all I had.
Oh, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Wow.
Yes, it's proudly displayed.
And that was all that I had.
Thank you. Commissioner Kaler, did you have a question?
Yes, pardon me, I'm sorry. I actually did have a couple of questions. And it begins, of course, on page 61, it's for the library, and it's just a question for Terry about, I noticed that on your receipts, that you have received 0% of your endowment interest. Is that normal? Is that endowment interest something that is pulled down at the end of your year, or not sure how that generally works?
Hello. Endowment interest, we always budget for the endowment interest each year. Our hope is that we actually don't have to withdraw that endowment interest if we don't have to. We'd always like the endowment fund to continue to grow and hopefully be able to be used for a future new building for the library. It is budgeted just in case we need it. But it comes out in December if we need it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then my other question is on the OMA report, which is on page 74. And Tiffany, I'm not sure if this is a question. Is Tiffany?
I think she's on vacation.
Okay, never mind then.
I can try to answer your question.
It's not a big deal. We can talk about it later. Not a big one. That was it.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Skidmore?
Okay, page 8, our money pulled up there. And I guess on my question, I think I mentioned to Melanie earlier today in email, but the overnight money with the KMIP, how accessible is that? How quickly can we tap into that if we ever need that for some short-term purpose?
Would you mind if we allow Rebecca McCurry to?
Yeah,
since she's
yeah,
on, and she's
absolutely.
our.
There we go. Get it to Rebecca, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm just attending from my office. So the overnight KMIP account, they describe it kind of as like this morning, actually, I was on the phone with him because we were investing some funds in some fixed rates. So he describes it as like the center of a wheel. So you've got the overnight account, and so we can transfer money out of that into fixed rates accounts, but also we could transfer money out of it back to our checking. It does a wire, so it does take a few days, but from the overnight, there's no penalties to transfer from there out. But that's how that one works.
Well, I'm just looking at the difference in the rate. I mean, we're getting 1% on that and 0.03 at our banks. It seems like quite a 30 times more interest earned on that. It just seems to me we might want to think about putting more money in that overnight account. But I know liquidity is always a thing up on my mind on this, and we've got a lot of liquidity, but I know we're working on getting the rates and getting the investments going with the staggered accounts, laddered accounts on the different CD maturities. So I just want to say, keep that up. You're doing good. And then the health savings and flex savings at Kansas State Bank, is that part of their total up on the top? Is that right?
No, those are separate. So the accounts kind of at the top are what we call like pooled accounts. So they're all pooled into different reports versus the health savings and that flex spending. They're really specific for paying for healthcare. So we don't have them in that pooled up at the top. So they're out, they're separate.
Okay. And the liquidity there too, is there ever consideration of putting some of that money with the KMIP CDs of like 6 months, or are we supposed to keep that in a liquid account?
So I've discussed that with Finance Director Landis, and we were making sure there wasn't a state statute around how that money has to be kept before we made any decisions on that, because we wanted to make sure we honored the all the rules and regulations associated.
I understand that. Okay, good. All right, thanks. And then how are our rates doing on the KMIP? Any updates on the rates this week?
Yeah, so I was talking with Mr. Honeycutt from the Kansas Municipal Pool this morning on the phone, and I was moving things into fixed rates, and he said, you know, the Fed's meeting over the next few days, you might wait until the end of the week to look for some longer terms. So I think that we're going to see them go up. That was the implication. So we are going to wait till the end of the week to see how those go. We did do some fixed rates for lower, a 30-day and a 90-day today, but the rates just keep going up, which is really promising.
Good. That's a good idea. We'll see what happens on Thursday, I guess. You're right. And then any idea on the rates at Kansas State Bank? Are they increasing? Because I know a lot of the banks in town are raising their rates on their transaction accounts. Are those staying at 0.03?
I haven't heard anything, but we haven't directly asked them either.
Okay, all right. You can call them or I'll call them, whichever you want to do. They might take my call probably, so if you want you to do that.
We'll take care of that.
Okay, let me know. On the on page 10 on the sales taxes, I'm just going to continue to look at this year and to see that each month, year over year from the previous month, we're setting records all the way across on that. So it's always good to see that. I really think we're on top 7 million this year total. So it's good to see. My question is up in the upper right-hand corner, it says change over previous year to date. How do you explain those numbers and what that is?
Sure. I will admit there is a typo in this formula on this. Director Landis actually brought it to my attention after we had sent it out. So the bottom number actually should be on the year-to-date change over previous year. The bottom number is actually only $316,731.77. That's the total change over last year, year-to-date. But it's still a 9.45% increase over last year, June to June. But so we track each one of the kind of subsections of sales tax. There's a certain amount dedicated to proximity park by statute, a certain amount for wastewater, and then we do the city sales and the use tax, and then the county sales and use tax percentage that we get. And so we just track each of those kind of 4 breakdowns, and the dollar amount change over on that column that you were talking about is just the dollar amount if you sum January through June in the 22 and you compare it to January through June of 21. And they're all about 9% increase. I will say the county sales and compensating use tax is 9.6%, and the rest are 9.4 increases over last year.
Okay, and I think for our projection of income, we're using a certain percent.
Yeah, we're being a lot more conservative than that.
That's what I'm thinking, which is okay. I think we're around 3 or 4% if I remember right on the projection, so, okay. That's good. Okay, Rebecca, thank you very much. And I guess on page 18, I've got a question. Mike Hall, there's this, talks about this Evan Woods subdivision preliminary plat on East Wilson. What can you tell us about that? I think I heard about it here a couple weeks ago, but then I wasn't sure where we're at. Tell me a little bit about that Evan Woods.
Yes, Commissioner Evan Woods subdivision is at the corner of Wilson and Milner. And it's about 18 residential lots, with a street. Preliminary plat was approved by the Planning Commission. Next step is it'll be a final plat, and that'll go to the Planning Commission, then it'll go to you for approval, acceptance of public improvements and dedication of streets and easements.
Okay.
Detached single-family residential homes.
Good.
There were some questions about the setback lines on the plat when it was approved. Other than that, don't really have much else to describe.
Great location. I'm just thinking it's been begging to be promoted, I think, and here's a chance for someone to go in there and do that. And so it's a good location for the schools, for work, for everything right there. So I'm glad to see that being developed. But good. I just see our single-family homes up to 26 mid-year, and so that'll shatter our record. I don't know if it's a record last year, not for 34 of them, but it'd be 52, so that's certainly a good number to see the new single-family homes, and this will enhance that number all the more. So is there any idea when those will be started on the Evanwood? Kind of depending on.
I would say at least a few months, because you have to have there are basically two different ways to get to the final plat approval. One is to construct all the public improvements, the streets, curb, gutter, and sidewalks, sanitary sewer, water, before the final plat's recorded. The other way of doing that is to enter into a development agreement with sureties that those get completed. Either way, if they choose to do the development agreement, then they'll get the plat recorded first, but they still have to put in the public improvements before they can get permits for the homes, to build the homes. So there's still quite a bit to go before they can build the houses.
Okay. That's very promising. All right. Thank you.
And one thing I might make a comment about the statistics on the homes. What I don't know is the rate at which those permits get issued throughout the year. So, if you just double that number, because this is through June, you just double that number, you get to, in terms of new single-family homes, you get to close to 50.
Yeah.
But it could be that they're not all issued at the same rate throughout the year.
So some could be carryover from the previous year.
Or just, most of them are issued at the middle of the year, and so it's not as simple as doubling it. But just something to think about.
Yeah.
So that could slow down a little bit.
Good. All right. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
And then just page 41, there's not much there to say, but streets department, I'm just seeing that pothole patching, and I'm just glad we had some crews out doing that here, like a week ago, I believe. And Dennis, thank you for getting them out and doing that. There seem to be a lot of potholes around town, and I know we've got a call-in line, so I'm glad we've got that, and then the work got done. So they did a good job, and I appreciate the effort on that. So pass it on to the guys, and I'm glad to see them out doing that. It's kind of a thankless job, but it's got to be done. So thanks. And that's all I had.
Thank you. I have no questions, just a comment that, once again, a lot of valuable information in here. And I want to say thank you to all the department heads for gathering this information for us. So thank you as always, every month. I'll move us on to item 3, which is our federal funds exchange request. Dennis Stark, come on up.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to talk to you.
I
It's been a
know.
while, so hold on a second. I'll get. Sorry. Item 2, Ottawa Municipal Airport hangar rental rates with Dennis. And Cal, if we have any questions for Cal also. And I see Jack Miller is also with us via Zoom.
Jump. Guy, that was a jump.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Yes, we are blessed to have some experience related to the airport, and Jack Miller and Cal Landis here with us today. And so I'm going to kick this off and then be relatively quiet and let the folks that know the most about this talk to you. What we are bringing before you is what we believe is a necessary increase in our T-hanger rates at this point in time. There's several things that drive that idea. One of those being just the availability. There's nothing out there. Everybody in the region has a waiting list. Two is just costs. Whatever you want to talk about as far as costs, whether it be utility rates, whether it be ongoing maintenance, they all increase. They're all increasing on us. That said, we are requesting a 5% increase. And in the event that the commission is in agreement with that, we're fine with the process, but we would like to try to move this forward as efficiently as possible so that if we come up with an increase here, we have time to provide that increase to the current tenants. That said, I think I will pass the baton here and ask Jack Miller to weigh in first. And Jack, can you help me out?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Can you hear me, Dennis?
Yes,
I
we
don't
can,
have
Jack.
any audio, but I do, any video, but I do have audio. So I'm sorry, did you say you could hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, well, once again, the reason that this proposal came into effect was, number one, we wanted to be sure that we were able to stay within the reasonable price ranges of the region, which I think we are very competitive. Secondly, the fact that the proposal on the 5% increase, it was my understanding that was to be year over year with a clause that we could amend that at any time depending upon the financial conditions. I think this was something that would be good not only for the airport, but it's for the city as well.
Jack, was that discussed?
Hello?
Jack, it was discussed, I think, that would begin on January 1 of next year. Is that correct?
Maybe we've lost him.
It's tough when you're not Scotch.
Yeah. But that is correct, Commissioner. This, as we had set up the schedule, this
I've
would,
got a horrible connection. I'm sorry. Say again.
But we're just talking about the January 1 effective date, January 1 and 23.
That's correct.
That'll give us time to notify all the current tenants and then allow them time to, yeah. And as I was going over the numbers of the other area airports, it seemed like that increase would fit right within the range of what we've seen here anyway. So we're not going to be high, we're going to be low, pretty much in the middle, lower middle, actually.
Jack may have stated this. Maybe I misunderstood. Is this a one-time 5% increase or is it an annual 5% increase?
what was discussed, and probably I did not outline that as well as I could have, but this would be an increase that we would look at year over year and have in place should we believe that the need arises. So yes, it is actually a year-over-year increase that we would be talking about. And belief is, at this point in time, with what we see with the availability, I come back to the availability is the biggest thing. The hangars in the area are full. I don't care where you want to talk about, they're full and they have a waiting list. And so that is a portion of what's going to drive costs. The other side of that, and there again, none of us, have seen anything go down. And our costs just continue to increase, to maintain those hangars. And so we've got to make sure that we're keeping up with that.
I think our last increase, I don't know if you remember, Dennis or Jack or anybody, count, last time we had an increase on this was when?
As I understood it, it was about 5 years ago. And there again, historically, I was doing some digging because I am not positive about that number.
Had a discussion, it could have been as far back as even 8 or 9 years ago, so it's been quite a few years. I think it wasn't the 5% was year over year, but wasn't there 3-year look that we were looking at?
I think there was a 3-year cap.
3-year cap on that, so. Yeah, it's not something we can do every year, we could do it for the next 3. And I might just add that, yes, we are competitive on our single engine rates, but we're very low on our twin engine rates and even lower on our jet. We actually have one jet in storage out there, so we're much lower than the surrounding areas on our twins and on the jet storage. So I don't see any reason that anybody would want to leave anytime in the future, even with the slight increase that we're proposing.
On that electric that's included, are they billed for that monthly or is that included flat in the $200?
That's included in the $200.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
like whatever electric use they have.
Yeah, whatever they're paying in hangar rate includes
flat.
everything.
It's all inclusive.
Okay.
I actually wonder if the 5% is really, a true amount that we should look at, and if it might not be needed that we have something more than a 5% increase. I mean, as you said, if you're looking at these and you're doing comparables, if you're looking at a standard T hanger that's in excellent condition, if you look down here, the other standard T hangers that are in excellent condition are for much higher rates than that. And so I do wonder if it's a true cost, and if it truly is all inclusive, they can use all the electricity they want, they can do it. I mean, we just saw last week, we're losing in our electric rates. Mm-hmm. And so, I think we need to be realistic about what it is a person receives when they rent a hangar.
I had the same thoughts too, going over just comparing the rates and, what all was included. It seemed like we were less than comps around here. So I'm assuming the board had a discussion about it, and how did they feel?
We did, and they felt it was just, I had to look at the minutes. I don't know whether Mike was at those or not, but going back, they felt it was reasonable. It was over 3 years. I didn't pull out my calculator, but that's 17%. I think if you do the math, if we did all 3 years, that'd be between 16.5% and 17% within the 3 years. Might add that, yes, electric is included, but in my experience out there, which is limited to the last few years, there's not much electric use out there. So, maybe a power washer occasionally, or maybe somebody doing a little bit of work, but most of the work that requires lots of electricity is done by the FBO in the main hangar. So that's not a big concern.
And I think this board approached it, like, quite honestly, this commission often approaches these types of things is, let's not throw too much on our customers at once. And so I think they took a conservative approach, to what they thought was a reasonable increase, and be able to look at that increase year over year.
Well, that's why the board's there, is to certainly review and discuss, and if they feel comfortable with it. It seems like a slight increase comparable to what everything else is here, but if they're comfortable with it, I guess, that's why you put those people there to have those discussions. Please.
So your request is 5% for 3 years.
My understanding, Dennis, you speak to this, it's 5%, and then if we need it, or if we want it, we'll come back and ask for the additional 5%. We can't do it without authorization, isn't that correct?
I think that's the way it was looked at by the board, that the request was that you are not approving 5% for 3 years here. You are approving 5% for 2023.
Yes.
And then we would like the alternative or the option to come back and make those requests. Again, I believe that's fair, because I think we need the opportunity to look without just saying that, 5% is necessary every year.
And in truth, because we do have a new FBO and a lot of new board members, that gives us some time to more familiarize ourselves with what it is that we need.
So remind me again how the rent gets split up. Do we keep the hangar rent, or does that go to the FBO?
There's a portion that comes to us, and I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me, so I can't fully answer. I can come back with that, but I can't fully answer.
But it is split.
Well, I do think it's low. It's always been low. I actually would probably advise you to come in with a higher flat amount and just get it done with. But this is what the advisory board's recommending.
And we can go back to the board. I am more than willing to go back to the board and say exactly what we're talking about. We have a little time here. We could bring it to you again next week. And actually we could bring it, no, we couldn't, because the board meeting is on Tuesday of next week, quite honestly. But nonetheless, we still have a little time that we could bring a different proposal back to you.
Well, I just think, I think the request is more than fair, and I think it does need to be increased.
And I agree, and I mean, you're requesting that we have you a decision by August 30th. I think that's plenty of time, and I think that,
give us time.
I think that you've heard our feelings, or some of our feelings, and maybe relayed that to the board, that at least have that discussion to see what they think. And certainly I'd defer to them. They're the pros when it comes to the airport. So, but I'd certainly like our opinions to be heard.
Absolutely. And again, commissioners, I believe that the board was really taking a conservative approach, trying to say, hey, we're not here to beat our customers up, and I am more than willing to go back to the board with Cal and Jack and have this discussion again with your comments involved.
So, I mean, if we're talking about a difference in, in the small T hangar, we would be talking about the difference of $7.50. We went from 5% to 10% increase, $7.50 a week, a month. I mean, just for the general public who is listening, we're not talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, we're talking about $7.50.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's no different than we talk about a lot of our other bills.
Sometimes it's easier just to drill down and talk about the really amount that it is.
And go back and tell the board you guys would like us to have more revenue. That's a good thing.
Yeah, well, I actually think the board's brought you what their minimum request is. And if you wanted to go from there, you're certainly able to do that, because in the end, you all have to approve it one way or the other, and you may not like it.
I don't want to unserve the board either. I mean, I just want to consider that we are willing to.
Well, I'm sure that the board is more than willing to do this consideration, yes. I don't think that's a problem.
Well, it may help them with a decision, whether it's this one or another, knowing that they have the backing of us to say, if they're willing to ask for more, that we'd be willing to, be okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That is exactly what we will do.
Good. Commissioners, any other questions for Dennis, Cal, or even Jack?
So is the buckle repaired?
The buckle is repaired. Yes, actually, our crews were able to repair the buckle, and that has been taken care of. They are currently, the crew is out there doing the taxiway ceiling and those repairs that were scheduled for this year, and that is all underway. So there's a lot of activity out at the airport right now, a lot of things going on.
So Airport Day is not in peril.
Airport Day is not in peril. Now, things may shift a little bit
Yeah, we
as to
may have-
where they're located.
That's gonna be a big part of our discussion,
don't
because
wanna
we've got a
run it
construction
down.
site right in the middle of where Airport Day is.
The good thing
going to
about
be.
the airport grounds is there's a lot of room, so there is room to move things around.
Are you saying it could be a helicopter day?
I'm saying that we'll have one taxiway left and a lot of back taxiing, so it'll take some creative planning, manipulation.
Well, I see recently we have planes landing on interstates. There's a road out there.
No, we don't want that. That's not what we want our pilots to
Not
do.
advisable.
Commissioners, any other questions? Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think we're good.
Thank you
All
guys
right.
for the.
Airport Day is the
Absolutely.
27th of August, so everybody.
And don't forget, on the first Saturday, between 8 and 10, the Air Explorers have a fantastic breakfast for donations out there. Come out and see what's going on before the 27th if you'd like, open to the public.
Yeah, that one's coming up soon.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Cal. Thank you, Jack.
That's
All right.
I need you for.
That moves us on to item 3 finally. Federal funds exchange request with Dennis.
You're so excited about
I know,
this item,
I
you
was.
couldn't
I was
wait.
ready
You
to
couldn't
talk
wait,
about
huh?
this.
All right. Well, Commissioners, this is one that really comes before you every year. Some of you may not have seen it at this point in time, so we'll do maybe kind of a high-level explanation of what this amounts to. The Kansas Department of Transportation, along with the federal government, through the Federal Funds Exchange, provides monies available that are reimbursable for street projects. And this is where most of our street rehab gets done, is through this Federal Fund Exchange money. I say that it's reimbursable because everything that happens here is after the fact. Projects get let for bid, they get done. And once we have paid those invoices, then we can turn those invoices in to be reimbursed by the federal government at that point in time, or through KDOT from the federal government. The number is a little different every year. And the beginning number is always offset by what the ending number is by about 10%. The reason for that is that if we allow that 10% to go back to KDOT and the program, then this program has absolutely no cost to us. That final number is a number that we have, that we can work with, that we have no cost at the end of the day. Everything that we do then as far as streets is 100% reimbursable to us. That said, the number this year, after the 10%, is $160,000, $160,416.40. I hope that was a pretty good explanation, and if not, I'll stand for questions.
What does this do back to the state?
By September, we have a little time. This is usually it shows up in February.
Yeah.
This year, for some reason or another, KDOT was very slow getting this out to us. And then I've been a little slow because of other circumstances getting this on to you, but we have plenty of time. And, all we are asking now is, you move this forward however you would like to. And we just need it to a regular meeting and to be approved and signed off on.
Commissioners, any questions for Dennis on this?
I believe so.
oftentimes I ask rhetorical questions when we're here, and, but this is not a negotiable amount. It is what it is. So I guess I wonder, is that really something we need to keep on our agenda for another week? Because we're not negotiating it. There's not a whole lot we're gonna.
And I
It is
agree.
what it
I mean,
is.
to me, I think these are one of those no-brainers, because
Yeah.
if we don't approve it, or we can give
Yeah.
away $160,000, and I don't think that's a good decision for this table to make. I mean, that's just my opinion, but.
I'm all for keeping things on the agenda when we need to have them on the
Sure.
agenda and need to have a conversation. The citizens can say whatever they want about it. They can either give it all back or we can take this amount.
I would be willing to have a conversation with a citizen that would try to convince me not to
Yes.
agree with this. I really would, to see what reasoning there is. But I am in full favor of moving it to our August 3rd agenda.
I am as well.
That's what we're, thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us on to item 4, which is an Aquatics 2023 PowerPoint presentation by our Commissioner Taylor.
I don't, Commissioner, could you hand me that? I don't even know that it works or not. And you could drive. I don't even care. I don't care who drives, really. Who knows if it even works? And I could just do this. Go, Paul. And we could just, yeah, we could just go. Yeah, last week I asked the commission to really take a leap of faith based on the fact that that we all know that our pool needs some love. And last year, probably about this time last year, right? You think, Levi, about this time last year? I presented this to a few of our key individuals in the community, just to give you a historic look at where aquatics has been in the city of Ottawa. And and I know that you've all looked through the PowerPoint, so I'm not going to go through it line by line. But if you'll advance a couple of slides for me, Paul, to Ottawa University really led aquatics 108 years ago when one of their professors had a disability and they opened up a pool and it was a quarter to get in. You got it in and you got a towel with it, which I don't know if you could take that towel or not, but if you did, that was a really great deal. But anyway, the pool closed in 1997. I think they just built over top of it. I mean, it's still there at Ottawa University. So a few years later, 300 donors came together. If you can go ahead to the next slide, please. 300 donors came together, and thanks to some inspiration from the city of Topeka, they developed a wading pool. And I think those 300 donors gave like $20 or something like that to build a new wading pool in City Park. And so that was our first public pool in 1916. Then we had that opening day. Next slide, please.
You know when that wading pool closed, or I'm curious for you?
No, we don't. 14, no. But if you were 14 and younger, you shouldn't be there. So, or older, you shouldn't be there. So.
I remember that. I won't say how old I was.
So it did open in the end of August, really, in 1916. And I thought what was interesting about this is that were boy days and girl days. Boys and girls could not swim together in the wading pool. They had to be in different days. And it says that no rowdiness or rude conduct was ever tolerated. So there you go. Take that for what it's worth. So then we move on to 1925 when Charles Novak built, he was an oil man who lived in our community. I don't actually know that he lived in our community, but he helped finance, and he actually financed himself, 185 gallon pool in Forest Park. And that really set for where our pool has been since 1925. So 100 years ago, that happened. In 33 years, there were 44 floods. Remember, there was no levee system at the time. The initial pool was built from wood and from concrete frames. And it cost 35 cents as an adult to get in and 15 cents as a child to get in. It was open until it was operated until 1959, privately by him, until he turned it over to the city for operations at that year. So furthermore, 7 years later after we received it, actually, I take that back. It was just 5 years later after we had received that, the Ottawa City Commission voted to go out for a special election to build a new pool. And I think it's important to note that this particular bond election was to build a new pool and development of a new park to host that pool. It was a colossal fail. And yeah, it just failed. So didn't happen that year, but regrouped. And 1966, if you'll go forward one more slide, in 1966, the Ottawa City Commission again went forward and said, you know what, we're not going to build a new park. We're going to put the pool exactly where it's at. There's now some changes that have been made. We're not going to build a new park. This was election was favorable and went forward. And it took from January, which I hope lots of pool builders listen to this, from January to June to build that brand new pool. That's it. 6 months to build that new pool. And on June 8th, 1967, Miss America came to the city of Ottawa and led a parade down Main Street to open up our new pool, and it was a grand day. So if you didn't just only want to go to the new pool, but you wanted to go to a ball in honor of Miss America, you could go for $2.25 that night to hang out with Miss America in the city of Ottawa. So here we go, 40 years later, that whole gap. 2006 was the last time that we improved our pool here in the city of Ottawa. We added ADA improvements, including zero entry. We added the buckets, the arch aquabo, the pop-up water jets, the mushroom, and the new slides then were added then. So here we are. That was just a quick recap of how it went, and we are 16 years later, and that's the last time we did a visible upgrade to the city of Ottawa's pool. I know it says the further of aquatics, it's really the future of aquatics. I might have been typing this really late at night. Is really our responsibility, and I hope that we can begin to address it in 2023. I did ask Levi Meyer, and he is here today to address the cost. The cost to keep our pool open is not free. Just because it has been built doesn't mean it's been free to run. So Levi has provided us with some income and expenses, and then also with some attendance data for us on what we're looking at for the pool. Levi, do you have things that you'd like to discuss on what you have in front of the commission today?
Yeah, I second.
All right, thank you all for having me. I think just kind of the overarching theme as far as revenue versus expenses that we've seen in the pool, it's not common to make a profit on a pool. It's actually incredibly common to lose money with pools. And what we've seen since fiscal year 15 for us is throughout that 8-year total, we've lost roughly $1,700 on the pool. Now, every year you'll have differences. So for instance, in fiscal year 15, we made $2,500, but in fiscal year 20, we were actually shut down for half of that season. We lost $16,000 that year. So it's not an amenity that we look to make money off of. It's, as I've heard Commissioner Kaler say, it is a quality of life thing that we try to offer to the community. For us, it's simply not about making money. It's just offering programs in a place where people can enjoy themselves and have a safe time in the summer. So we've been pretty steady in the last 8 years as far as patronage goes, just over 13,000. And then this year we're across the board at the ORC, we're looking at repeating 2019 numbers as a bounce back from COVID. So we can estimate that we're on pace to hit that 2019 number of roughly 12,000 patrons this year. So a couple other highlights as far as some specifics go with our costs. To stay competitive, we had a pretty steep, I say steep, it was $1.50 raise for our lifeguards in 2022 compared to the pay rate that we had in 2019. And we will expect to raise that again this next year, just again to hopefully retain more staff, but recruit and get additional help in the next year as well. So I can take any specific questions as far as the operation.
Well, might also, what Levi's giving you is the operations side, what he has to do from the lease side. What's not here are those other expenses that the city picks up out of special parks, chemicals, maintenance. I think we pay the utility bills, not that you get any utility bills, but we take care of those also. When was the last time we had a rate increase on the admissions and on the season passes?
I can't remember.
I know
It's
it
been over
hasn't
10
been
years.
since you
Yeah,
were there.
no, it's been over 10 years. And what you see in that patron breakdown are our different age brackets. That's how we run costs. So in the green there, anybody from 0 to 2 years old, that's a free entry. 3 to 11 years old is $2, and 12 to 59 is $3. So those are our prices per year, and then you can just assume, those times however many patrons is what we bring in. We do have some programming, parties and lessons and stuff that helps us on the cost side, but we're not making much as far as
That's Levi's right. I don't know of a pool 42 years that I've been associated with, a public pool that makes money. You don't go into it to lose money, but you don't make money. And if you could make money at an amenity like this, then private enterprise would still be providing the pool to the public.
And the over 60, how much is that?
$2.
A friend of mine was asking.
Beaver, I'm sorry, go ahead. Are you planning on adding staff for next year?
Yeah, so that staff budget cost, that is fully staffed. That's if we have a supervisor on site, a deck manager, and then 8 lifeguards essentially. We've operated in the past with 6 lifeguards. As you can assume, we can make it work, but when we have 6 out there and they're only taking a break every 30 minutes, when it's 110 degrees outside, it gets pretty hot for them. For safety reasons, we reevaluated where we had guards this year, and we actually added one into a rotation on an area that we do see a lot of rescues. So we're running a 7-guard rotation now. So that budget that you see as far as staffing next year is fully staffed every single day of the pool, including the raise that we had. And that's a raise across all different levels. So lifeguard, head lifeguard, managers and supervisors as well.
What's your total staff?
We're at 24 lifeguards this year, and we have 4 supervisors and 3 supervisors and a pool manager this year, part-time.
With other kind of staffing issues, just, systemic, do you see issues with that keeping lifeguard stocked? I'm just saying, at $10 an hour, someone to save a child who's in a pool seems extremely low to me.
It's difficult, yeah, and nationwide, the story that I see nationwide is lifeguard shortages. We were in an incredible position this year to where we didn't have that issue. We actually were fully staffed this year. But you look at pools like Overland Park and Olathe, I think Overland Park shut down 2 of their 5 pools because they didn't have staff this year. At the end of May, I think Lawrence was still looking for 30 lifeguards to run their pool. We didn't have that year, which is just to credit to the awesome kids that we have working. But yeah, to your point, if it's McDonald's or Walmart versus having to go save someone's life, and we have, I think, 20 saves already this year, to make $10 an hour it's a tough sell. But we have a really good group this year.
I wonder about, occasionally I'll hear, very occasionally, I hear that the cost is too high, which I think is honestly, I shake my head at, because the value of, what are the hours the pool is open?
1 to 6.
So for 1 to 6, you can go, if you are from 12 to 59, you can go from 1 to 6 for 50 cents an hour and swim at the pool. I don't know where else you can get that value. You can't even buy a candy bar for 50 cents. Nothing. So, but it is a quality of life issue, as I had said. So I appreciate you bringing that. And I think to our city manager's point of view and his note on, that's not a small number. It's not a small number that we're actually utilizing for chemicals and upkeep and breakdowns and things that happen, incidentals that happen at our pool. So it's not free to certainly keep the pool. And really the cost of putting water in it. We're draining it every year and how much water are we losing every single day? So.
We'll have to water the trees next year if we fix that leak.
Any questions about the PowerPoint or anything for Levi based on aquatics and where we're at with aquatics?
Do you guys still have swim meets and stuff in the evening? Because I don't know if Ottawa has a swim team.
They do, yeah. Commissioner Kaler might be a good resource for that. This year we hosted 3. We hosted 2 swim meets and then the league tournament this year.
Okay.
So they're a great partner of ours, and it's a program that we at the ORC don't provide. So we're happy to be able to help the Ottawa Swim Club with their program.
2 Saturdays ago, I think we hosted 125 swimmers. Saturday morning, and they were there at 7 a.m. and there until lunchtime. So, yeah, from really Wamego is the furthest they came to swim.
And for kind of either of you, has there been anyone reach out? Because with OU expanding athletics leaps and bounds, has swimming, someone from OU ever reached out, with that kind of in mind to you guys?
I think there's always an interest to expand, whether that be high school, collegiate level. But it's the financial piece that it plays down to. I don't think anybody's ever going to make their money back on a college swim team. But the potential with a new facility, I think it'd be easy to see a high school swim team or a college swim team here in Ottawa.
This presentation was made to OU and to the high school. So those are conversations.
Yeah. Do you see value from your perspective, think about a YMCA or other obviously private enterprise that have an indoor facility as well?
Yeah, the prospect of an indoor facility is, now you think these expenses that we have, you multiply them across 10 months out of the year. But there's a wide range of programming that you can do between the hospital doing therapy here in town, senior fitness classes, the ability to have swim lessons year round. So our kids aren't just getting 2 weeks, essentially 4 hours a year of swim lessons. They can get that across 12 months. So yeah, I think there's benefit to an indoor facility, but it just goes down to the cost thing again. Yeah.
I know Washburn Towers have got indoor facilities. Is there any cooperation or anything with that you know of with senior classes or anything?
They do run a class out of there currently. I think it's pretty well attended. I don't have the numbers exactly. I wouldn't even be able to really accurately guess, but they have a group that they run in there. And I'm not even sure the size of that pool fits. If it would support additional programming outside of that.
Well, thank you for thank you, Levi,
Thank
for
you.
being here and
Thank you
giving
all.
that data and just listening for just a second about the history of aquatics. And I really want to thank the Historical Society too, because they did a tremendous amount of digging for data and historical facts on this one.
Thanks, sir. That's good.
Anything else?
Nope,
All
not
right.
at this time.
Thank you. That'll move us on to comments by our city manager. I'm sorry. I'll get this right eventually, okay?
If the stress is getting
I'll
to you,
tell
we
you
have
what.
EAP.
How about a 2023 budget comments and questions with, do you want to do this or Director Landis?
Director Landis.
All right.
Just for a second.
Come on. Ahead of time, I can start waiting.
Good, hurry, get
I'm
some.
gonna hurry, come on.
I actually don't have a presentation for you. I believe we did this last year and probably in previous years, but after we finish our major budget presentations, we like to just give you an opportunity at every meeting to ask any questions that you might have come up with up until the time that we actually present to you the public hearing. So if you have questions, we're happy to answer. Otherwise, I have a question for you, but if you do you have any questions regarding the budget that you've been presented so far?
Commissioners, anything that you have seen or haven't seen in the budget that you'd like to discuss?
One, I know I talked about this communication director we've been talking about, and we said wait for Sarah, but I've given that some more thought, and I think that maybe our IT department could take that on. If our IT department needs more resources, some cameras or equipment or something, we've got an award-winning IT department. I would just think that maybe there's a way they could utilize or do something there. Let's try that for a year first before we go out and hire someone full time. I just question the size of our town justifying that position and that total cost. And I think our IT department could, given the proper resources and input from the departments around our city, to be able to post some information as needed.
Yeah, I agree. I had a conversation also, with a few people and just the lack of what that department or that, person might be doing is the kind of the big question. Typically, we do a lot of R&R, rip off and repeat. And there's very little that we can do right now. Very few cities have a communications director. And certainly we could set the bar. I think at this point, maybe give it another year's thought and see what else we can come up with in the meantime. I think there can be some communication between our departments though and IT that might allow them to take care of some of those things that Commissioner Kaler brought up and I brought up the other day about events and things like that happen in our community. So just a little bit more communication, between those departments and IT that might fill that void. Commissioner Kaler, we were just discussing the communications director or communications part of the budget. Adding that position. Mayor Pro Tem Skidmore and I were just making the comments that at this point, we're not sure if we want to continue having that in the budget. I've had a discussion with IT and I think Mayor Pro Tem Skidmore had also, and they indicated that a lot of what they think might be going on or that person may be doing is already happening with IT. There are some things that certainly could, come out of that position. We're just not sure if it's a full-time, but I'm not sure if it's a full-time position that I would be willing or be comfortable funding at this point, but possibly, a part-time or something like that. Just bringing you up to date on what we were just talking about.
And my point there was, I think, we do an award-winning department here. Let's give them, if they need more resources, maybe they need a better camera or better, I don't know what you would even use, computer system to get the word out. But thinking that, let's give them a year to try, review it, and if we need someone in that position, maybe next year's budget would be one to consider. But that's kind of where I'm coming from. And see what we can do with them. I think a lot of it is just communication with department heads, having something to promote, and maybe they don't think about, we should tell our IT department to put that out on the social media for people. And so now that all department heads would know, hey, let's get the word out better. We need to promote ourselves better. We need to sell ourselves better. And that maybe we can try it that way through our IT department first, and then maybe next year at the position. And even when I think about next year, I still think about sometimes combining jobs with the county if we can somehow. And if there's a county person or somebody that we can hire to work half city, half county in that capacity. So that would be the first step toward doing some joint work with the county as far as some kind of department. But anyway, again, that's just my view on that.
I don't disagree with you that needs to happen. That has been, that topic's been approached and it's been denied. Not once, but several times. And so we can't force the county to work with us.
No, that's true. And I don't know if, that's true. So I don't know if it'll be more convincing or just if they're dead set against that. I don't know. It seems like it'd be a good approach. That's my view.
I'd be intrigued as well if there's a service available to tell us, coming from someone who's worked in IT, we may not know what someone who's from marketing, who, whatever their background might be, there's a reason they have that specific skill set. And if there's someone we could, maybe fund that could say, hey, here's all of these things. I would assume most department heads, if they had things, I would assume that they thought would be good things to share, they probably would. So I think their perspective of someone who's based on marketing, communications, and getting information out that to us is mundane and day-to-day, it is part of the benefit that I see, that they have that mindset that I don't have, even when it comes to just, marketing other things. And they may have that skill set where we can look at something, even if we got information from someone on a need.
Well, and I think, giving it some time to kind of develop what the job would look like is a good idea. But also, we have talked about interns before, and I know, it's a limited position and their time is limited. But also, maybe in the temporary time, we think about having an intern and having them do the marketing portion, and then maybe they could help us develop what that position looks like. Because we don't know what we may need exactly, so they might be able to help.
And I'd say on a personal level, I'd hate to fund it for 2 years. Someone moves to Ottawa for 2 years for this position, and then we're like, hey, we didn't quite flesh this out, and now, sorry. Someone's life, just how impactful that could be, just because we didn't do our due diligence in figuring out what we need.
I guess I think about whenever we have this meeting, and it is difficult to have a meeting at 4 p.m. on a Monday because all of us have had a busy day already, right? And generally, we've all had a full plate. And so I love what Commissioner Clayton was saying, because I don't think any of our department heads are purposely withholding information, but I think that you have to put out your fires. Sorry, Chief, but you have to put out your fires first. And sometimes those things at promoting don't get to the top. They never get to the top. It always goes, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And that's why I think this job is so important. I think it's important because it's someone's job to say, my job is just to promote the city. And to go to those department heads and say, hey, what can we do to work on, promoting this? Hey, what can we do on this? Hey, what can we do on this? What can we do on this? When we're all exhausted at the end of the day, and that gets pushed down another day, and then it gets pushed down another week, and then it gets pushed down another month, and all of a sudden we're 3 budget years later, and we still haven't funded this position, and we're still not telling our story. I don't think that IT is not doing a great job. I absolutely do. I just think that IT, they're not journalism people either. I mean, they're not writing press releases. They're not telling that story in that way. I think it's a collaboration with IT. I don't see it as a replacement for IT in any way. I see it as an enhancement to what we're doing.
My only fear is filling a full-time position, and I understand you're exactly right, Commissioner Clayton, that somebody, I don't market either. So, I can't fathom what could go along with that process, whereas somebody who does do that every day could come in and fill that full-time position. I just fear that we can't, and I don't want somebody coming here on a full-time position trying to find things to do, just because they can't fulfill that job description either. So now that we've had a discussion.
So now that we asked the question.
I was gonna say, is there a consensus of some sort that the commission would like to give Director Landis on how to move forward with that part of the budget?
There's also, well, by the way, the position's not in there right now, right?
The position itself is not in there. I did find that I had left the benefits portion of it in there. But I had, yes, so about 50,000 of the position itself is not in there. It was on that list that we weren't recommending at that time.
But another option is to get contract guidance on it. I know a couple individuals that do that. One of them is a former league employee who might be willing to give help and guidance on how to do that, just to help bring things forward. But
there are also services out there that will write those pieces for you when we need the written pieces if we know what those are. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily gonna go around and ask, what is it that we need to know that needs to be put out there, so. What I could do is just, when we come back to make decisions or discuss it a final time before the public hearing, we could just show you what that looks like side by side. Here's something with it not included all the way, here's something with partial money in there, here's something with a fully funded position.
And also, another option is what Commissioner Graves pointed out. There may be an opportunity to pick up a marketing student that's conversant in social media, that I think we had one years ago, didn't we? Didn't you have an intern come in? Anyway, it's not a complete foreign idea to us, but there may be an opportunity where we could have an intern from OU.
Well, and I also, the part that I like about that, and we're looking at it in different ways, but it's also the partnership with Ottawa University for it. I mean, it brings in that aspect as well, and I like having them as partners. So.
We could share one with Main Street.
Get back off of my intern.
Can I add, I did send an email to Christine Courier with OU last week, telling her that we were interested in an internship, a communications or a marketing intern to help at OMA, but in the past we have shared, a couple of years ago, we shared an internship with the chamber and OMA, and then we actually had another intern working. We had two at one time.
I'd like it if we're gonna consider it an internship, I'd like us to consider a paid internship.
For sure, yeah.
And I'd be more comfortable with something like that, just because I think that's easier to fill that position, fill the time. And we may find at that point that, look, that's overwhelming for an intern, and we need a full-time position filled there, so.
And the conversations that we've had with OU about other interns, they encourage that as well, encourage having their interns be paid.
That won't be too hard to ferret out. I'll put the feelers out.
Certainly like your idea about the options. If you could certainly give us those options, that would be great.
Okay. We will do that.
Anything else that we would like to discuss with Commissioner, or your Commissioner now?
Yeah.
Director
Wow.
Landis, sorry about the demotion. The Director Landis, budget, anything to do with the budget, whether anything you'd like to see or you haven't seen in there.
As far as financing certain items, have we come up with any kind of list? Yeah, we'll finance these, no, we're not. Where we're at on financing?
No, we're still in the same place we were before, because we haven't, we presented to you where the numbers kind of stand, and really it's about what the extra or additional items we want to put in there, and we have that list of things that we could do. We haven't put together or really gone through and just decided exactly what that might look like. But that leads me to the question that I was gonna ask, so thank you for the tie-in, because our public hearing is September 7th, and that is the Wednesday after Labor Day. So we won't touch base about this on the Monday before, but we do have the two prior Mondays are August 22nd and August 29th. And so we had talked about bringing back to you kind of that final look at it before the public hearing, what numbers wise and presentation wise, on those two dates, one or both. We could start with the 22nd And if you want to carry over conversation to the 29th, we could, or don't have to, whatever you prefer. And so otherwise we can do it earlier than that, but we were trying to give any additional time in there where you might have other questions or things before, so we could just make a final presentation to you and let you decide how you'd like to move. And then after the public hearing, you would consider that for final approval.
I certainly am in favor of having multiple weeks, yes.
Yeah.
Do
Okay, do you
So-
need more than 2
you want more than 2
dates?
commissioners?
We'll give you 4.
No. Okay, multiple, 2 or 3.
I think
2 will be fine, I think, yeah,
Okay.
those dates will work.
So between now and then, I think, like I said, we typically will give you an opportunity at each of the meetings to ask questions if you have other things that come up. But I'm not planning on bringing back an actual presentation until those dates, unless you would like to do so. Happy to bring it, every meeting if you want to, but I'll hold you here.
Do
Each
you-
meeting.
Kind of in lieu of the aquatics talk and then the $500,000 we kind of talked about last week, do you need anything from us on that?
No, we did send the form in to the county, exactly as we had discussed, with the same mill rate as last year overall, and we set the public hearing date for the 7th, and that's all we needed to do from that perspective. And then it's just about the rest of this conversation, what you'd like to see as options for you to consider when we get around to making the decision. Okay,
All right,
thank you so much.
Thanks.
moves on to comments by our city manager.
So I'd like Director Hall to give you an update on where we're at with the MIH applications. And then when he's done, I'm just gonna kind of talk to you a few minutes about another aspect of this we're grappling with, so you aren't surprised about the discussions you might hear.
Thank you. So a week ago, we talked about kind of an outline of a process and got some direction from you all about what your priorities are in requesting projects. And so a couple important target deadlines. One was to get the RFP, the request for proposals, out. And our goal was to get that by today, if not earlier. And that was done. We sent it out on Friday. Today it was put on our website, 2 places, on the City News webpage and the Community Development webpage. You'll find the RFP if you're interested in looking at that. It reflects the direction we received a week ago. The next key date is August 8th, and we're requesting that anyone who wants to be considered for the first round of moderate income housing grant applications submit by the 8th. If they don't have the complete information for that time, they can submit and be considered perhaps for the second or third round. And so, as you might recall, if we get an application, we get projects by the 8th, we're going to sort those out, we're going to review those, and potentially make a recommendation on one or more projects for you to select by the end of August. It's important that if there is a project you want to include in an application, that you would adopt a resolution of support probably at the September meeting. And then the deadline is September 30. It is a short time frame for someone to submit a project. If you look at the RFP, we tried to not make it so complicated that someone would be scared away from submitting a project, but we still needed sufficient information to make a recommendation or for you to make a selection. Something that's going to happen, I think, as we go forward, is we're going to learn more about how this works, and KHRC, Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, will come out with more direction. And there's another piece of this, and that's the housing investor tax credit. And they're going to explain that. We expect that's going to happen probably after the September 30 date or around that time. And so that's kind of another layer to this that could be used to leverage housing investment.
And the commission is not limited to actually saying we want to submit more than one application, the entire money that may be available for an application, it can be spread out, right?
That's an option, and that was a question that was asked of KHRC, is that just a non-starter? It asked for more than one project to be funded, and they said it was not a non-starter. That's something that's potential. The maximum grant award to a city, or a county, is $650,000.
So how we, like, that's not per project, that's per city.
Yes.
That's per period, right?
Yeah.
Because there's
Yeah.
multiples per year.
Yes, that's what I was.
Yeah, there are 3 rounds per year. So each round, there's $5 million that they have to grant. And then the first round, keep in mind, their first priority is to award grants to projects that they didn't have funding for in the past. So a lot of that $5 million is sort of spoken for. So, there's some unknowns here. We don't, know how competitive it'll be with the first round. But, so kind of have to play it by ear a little.
But even though we're going into the first round, assuming we're going to get funded, it is a learning opportunity for us, because if we don't go through the process, then we don't gain the knowledge of exactly what to expect on the second round. So I might add through all this, and we have talked to a number of, we had a meeting last week with an individual out of Atchison that works for the city and is also a developer. And the information that person brought to us around the table was extremely helpful. And I know that we have reached out to some others, and I know Mike's being contacted by people, and he's having discussions about it. But because of the money that's been put into housing by the state, which is a good thing, the internal discussion has been how do we really get a handle on that, and how are we able to help our developers understand the application and help them get that done. So we've actually had a discussion with an entity because they are increasing their housing presence, and how maybe sharing a joint position might help. I'm going to have a discussion with another individual about perhaps contracting for some services that would help out in the housing arena. So I think eventually, I don't think I know, eventually you have to kind of wrap your head around, if there was an administrative position to be added in community development, it would be a housing coordinator position. I think that's going to become even more evident as we continue to go through this process and try and work to bring more housing money to the community. So we're kind of trying to cover that on the front. The mayor's had some sources we can pull into, and it's something we're continuing to discuss and try and get resolved, so we can have the best advice, we can understand the programs the best, and we can help our developers that want to take advantage of those programs. We can help them being educated about what programs are out there. Would you say that's right?
Yes, when times are good, and they have been for the last couple of years in the housing market, everybody is eager to build and sell, and that's what's been happening. But the fear of recession and everything that's going on with our economy right now is starting to slow down the housing market. But we're still going to have people that are willing to make a financial commitment to our community. And I think any way that we may be able to help them out with some of these dollars that are available from the state would certainly be beneficial to them, and certainly keep our housing market moving forward.
So just imagine if we were successful in bringing $600,000 every application period to the community, and there's 3. That'd be $1.8 million that would come directly into the housing to help bring housing about into the community. And someone's gonna get that money.
Might as well, yes.
One more thing, any questions on that discussion? One more thing, I don't think I surprised Mike too much on that, but lakeside bids are open on Thursday. They'll be open by the city clerk at 10 a.m. in the commission room, and it will be on Facebook. We find that that's some of our higher ratings.
I left that in the meeting.
Pardon?
I left this in that meeting somewhere, something like that. Can I get a copy of that?
You can have that.
Anything else? No, thank you. There's some comments by our city commissioners. Commissioner Graves,
I have no comment.
Commissioner Kaler,
None at this time.
Commissioner Clayton,
None at this time.
Mayor Pro Tem Skidmore. And I have no comments either, except for the announcements, which is our study session at 4 p.m. August 1st, our joint county USD 290 luncheon August 3rd, 12 p.m. here. We have a study session August 8th, and our Ottawa University Fusion 6 p.m. at Legacy Square August 9th. If anything else come before the commission tonight, I'll adjourn.